What's up guys, I'm Tony Woodark. I'm a photographer out of Southern California, and today I'm going to talk to you about my favorite 50mm lenses. Okay, the reason I did this is because two of them are on medium format, and so they're not 50mm, but they're 50mm equivalent on 35mm. If you shoot medium format, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't, you're probably like, what the heck are you saying? Basically, the frame size is bigger on medium format, and so there's a different variable. But when I say 50mm, I'm referring to 35mm. Okay, the only true 50mm lens that I have is the 50 Summilux 1.4 aspherical. This is an insane lens. I have it on my Leica M6. It's pretty much one of my favorite lenses of all time. It's really small and compact in shape, really nice focus throw. Goes, like I said, to 1.4 all the way to 16th aperture. And this is one of my favorite parts, actually. Obviously the lens and the look is my favorite part, but I love lens hoods, and this one's built in and you just pull it out and twist it and it locks in place. And so you've always got your lens hood with you. It's not that big of a feature maybe to some people, but me, I love lens hoods. And so to have that always with me and to be so well built into the design is a really big thing for me, because yeah, I always kind of have my lens hoods on, and so to have this thought out ahead of time is amazing. Okay, for looks, this to me is one of my favorite. It's really sharp in the center and just beautiful characteristics to it. It's got that Leica pop, or whatever you want to call it. It's awesome from 1.4 all the way through. It just is a beautiful lens. The 50mm to me is the best focal range for kind of everything. Portraits, landscapes, it's a little tight, but I think it gives it a little bit more unique of a look. For photographing people, I think it's the best focal length in my opinion. And so that's kind of why I'm heavily invested in 50mm lenses, is because that's what I just kind of am drawn to. I think it doesn't give, you know, distortion one way or the other, and I think it just makes people look really good. It was my only Leica lens for a while, and so when I traveled and I just got obsessed with this M6, I was shooting it everything, you know, travel, photography. The 50mm is a little tight sometimes as you're traveling and stuff, and so 35 is maybe a little bit more of a comfortable focal length for stuff like that. But I just love when you put it wide open and shoot it, it just gives such good, beautiful bokeh. So yeah, with this, I think the bokeh is really nice and the sharpness is really great too. The size for me is obviously, this is the best. And then Leica, this M6 is my favorite body that I own. And so yeah, this combo together is probably the winner, but I'm not gonna say it's the winner because we're gonna get to a couple other lenses. Let's jump in. I forgot to mention, the minimum focal distance for this lens is 0.7 meters, which is about 2.5 feet or so. So that's kind of a drawback to the rangefinder system in general. And I wish you could get a little bit closer with focus, but it's close enough for portraits kind of chest up. Real quick, I just want to thank my sponsors, Holdfast. I'm an ambassador for Holdfast. Pretty much on all my shoots, I'm wearing the Holdfast Moneymaker dual camera straps so I can shoot two bodies. I usually have the Contax 645 on one side and then the Leica M6 or a 35mm camera on the other side. I love having two cameras side by side and being able to kind of shoot between the two. So thanks Holdfast for always looking out for me. If you need links to any of the stuff that I'm talking about, check out the links below. Make sure to follow me on Instagram at Tony Woodark. Yeah, thanks so much for watching. Oh. Next up is this beast, the Pentax 6.7 with the 105 2.4. So the 105 2.4 is equivalent to about a 50 or 52mm or so 1.2, and so it's got a really narrow depth of field. At 6.7, this is probably the most bokeh I can get out of any of these lenses. People say it's got almost like a large format look. When you shoot it wide open, you can just really just make people pop off of the background, which is pretty amazing. in terms of just really crazy bokeh and just really beautiful look and really good detail, because this is medium format and it's 6x7, which is the biggest negative size that I shoot with. This to me is like, if you need a high quality portrait of someone, this would be my go-to for that, just because it is so unique and so beautiful. The bokeh is just really beautiful and just has like really good shape to it. It just falls off really nicely, and so I love this. I would say the drawbacks aren't the lens with this. To me, it's more the body. It's a little bit hard to focus with this camera, just how it was built. I got a diopter so that this matches my eyesight, and so that's really helped. And then I also have a little magnifier piece for this, and so it basically punches in the focus for the center, and so you can see, looking through the magnifier, you can see a lot closer and really nail focus, because to me, I've missed focus more with this camera setup than any other one. And maybe it's time for this thing to get calibrated, and it maybe needs an adjustment, but really I think it's just a hard camera to focus. And when you try to shoot a 105 at 2.4 and the depth of field is like this deep maybe, it's really easy to miss focus. Like, you could focus on the eyebrows instead of the eye, or kind of right behind the eye. It's really easy to miss that like inch of focus. That's pretty much what you have if you're shooting close portraits. Other drawbacks to this lens is its minimum focal distance is 1 meter, is 3 feet or so. So your minimum focal distance isn't that close, which is kind of a downside to this lens. You can get extension tubes and get closer with that, and so I got those as well, so I'll be shooting with those. I haven't shot with them yet. But yeah, I would say that's the downfall of this lens, is the body is hard to focus it with, and the 1 meter minimum focal distance. But the look itself is probably one of my favorite things, and it's made me want to keep this body because I love this look of this lens so much. Also, shooting at kind of 5.6, 8, or 11 aperture, it's so sharp, and just because you have such a big negative, it's beautiful. And so I'll share some of those images here as well. But yeah, I really love this lens. The body is the only drawback. Okay, the best for last? Maybe. This is the Zeiss Planar 80mm 2.0 T-Star. I don't know how many other names it has, but yeah, this is basically the Zeiss 80 on the Contax 645 body. This body is freaking expensive. This system is finicky. There's plenty of drawbacks to this camera body, but there's also tons of amazing things about it. This is my main wedding day go-to camera setup, also engagements as well. I love the 645 format because it's a larger negative than 35mm, but you can still get 16 frames per roll on it. But really the reason I love it is because this lens right here, and that's the only reason that I shoot this body still, is because this lens. This lens at 2.0 is equivalent to, again, maybe like a 1.2 or so, but its bokeh is what people refer to as painterly. It gives it this really crazy, beautiful bokeh. And I'll show you a 2.0 versus 2.8 shot here. You can see that last stop of aperture is really where the magic happens. So Hasselblad and a bunch of other cameras usually have a 2.8 version of these lenses. You know, Zeiss makes a 2.8 version for all those. The Contax is the only one that has the 2.0 version, and I think that last stop is where all the magic happens. And so I know there's a lot of photographers out there that shoot this body and pretty much shoot the entire day at 2.0. It just has such a unique look. I mean, this lens is sharp all the way through and a beautiful lens in general, but there's just some sort of magic that is kind of hard to describe, but you can clearly see here that happens at 2.0. And so for portraits, for just everything, detail shots, for anything, it just looks so cool, this lens shooting at 2.0. Again, like the Summilux, this goes to 0.7 meters, just maybe like 2.5 feet, 2 feet. That's a minimum focus. I've got Hoya filters that you screw onto the front of these that you can focus closer. So that's what I use for detail shots. I'll show some of those here. And so it's just a little screw-on filter. It's really nice to have. Out of these three lenses, the Zeiss Planar, the Summilux 1.4, the Pentax 105 2.4, I would say this is my all-time favorite 50mm lens. I just haven't found anything that is quite magical wide open than this lens. And so, yes, this whole video was just to say I love this lens. No, I think at some point I will, if I stop shooting weddings, I'll retire this body and I'll be sad to lose this lens, and I'll use the Summilux and the Pentax instead, just because this camera body is so expensive and the lens is so expensive. So against all three, I would say Summilux wins for size. The Pentax 105 wins for just unique kind of large format look. The winner out of all three is the Zeiss Planar 80mm 2.0. To me, this is like the coolest looking lens, and the bokeh is just so beautiful. And like I said, painterly, I think this is the winner out of the three. And that's just me. I'd love to hear what lenses I didn't review that you think I should have added to the best of 50mm. These are the ones that I've experienced. I've shot a bunch of other Canon ones and a few others along the way, but to me, these are the ones that stand out and I just love. So I'd love to hear which ones you guys liked. Please drop comments below. If you agree or disagree with me, let's hear it in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe. Yeah, appreciate it.